Have you ever been asked if you're a numbers person or a words person? Analytical or intuitive? For a long, long time, we've all been fed this idea of the left brain versus the right brain. This huge split that kind of forces us to pick a side. It shapes everything from the classes we take as kids to the careers we end up choosing. So, which is it? Are you an artist or are you a scientist? We're all pushed to declare a major, right? To pick a lane and to pick it early. Are you going to be in the lab or the studio? Are you a spreadsheet person or a sketchbook person? It's presented like this massive life-defining choice you have to make. And you know exactly what the stereotypes are. The artist is supposed to be intuitive, emotional, wildly creative. And the scientist, well, they're the logical, analytical, totally objective ones. I mean, they sound like they're from two completely different planets. And look, this isn't a new idea. Way back in the 1950s, a scientist and novelist named C.P. Snow gave it a name, the two cultures. He talked about this gulf of mutual incomprehension separating the two worlds. And honestly, he perfectly captured a divide that a lot of us still feel today. But here's the big question. What if this whole thing is a myth? What if this deep divide is just a story we've been telling ourselves? And what if, and this is the important part, the real secret to genius, to true innovation, isn't about choosing a side at all, but about learning how to bridge that gap. So that brings us right to the heart of this explainer, the Polymath Secret. We're going to dive into a type of person who just completely shatters this myth of the two cultures, the scientist-artist. Okay, so what in the world is a polymath? Well, it's not just about being good at trivia night. A polymath is someone whose knowledge is super broad, spanning tons of different subjects. But here is the absolute key. They don't just collect knowledge, they connect it. They use ideas from one field to solve totally unrelated problems in another. And this isn't some weird, rare thing. History is absolutely full of them. I mean, Louis Pasteur, the guy who gave us pasteurization, he was also a fantastic artist. The famous composer Alexander Borodin, he paid the bills as a professional chemist. And get this, Hollywood icon Hedy Lamarr co-invented the technology that's the ancestor of the Wi-Fi and Bluetooth we use every single day. And Vladimir Nabokov, who wrote Lolita, was also a world-class butterfly expert. They weren't just dabbling, they were masters in completely different worlds. All right, but this goes way beyond just a few cool stories about famous people. There is some seriously compelling evidence that this link between art and science is not only real, but it's powerful and maybe even predictable. So check this out. A psychologist named Bernice Ayduson spent decades studying three groups of people: artists, scientists, and businessmen, and her findings were pretty mind-blowing. The artists and the scientists, psychologically, they were practically twins. They thought the same way, they had the same motivations. The business guys, though, they were a completely different group from the other two. And this is where it gets really interesting. It's not just about personality. When researchers started looking at what predicts huge career success, I'm talking Nobel Prize level success, it wasn't about having the highest IQ or the best grades. Nope, it was having a serious, long-term, creative hobby. Just take a look at these numbers. This study compared the hobbies of Nobel Prize-winning scientists to your average scientist, and the results are, well, they're staggering. The Nobel laureates were twice as likely to be musicians, 7 times more likely to be painters, and, get this, a whopping 17 times more likely to be poets. 17. This isn't just a tiny correlation, it's a massive, fundamental difference. I mean, just look at the music data by itself. The gap is huge. So clearly, something really powerful is going on here. But why? What's the connection? Well, the answer seems to be that the real innovators, whether they're in a science lab or an art studio, are all using the same universal set of mental tools to solve problems. These tools don't care about subject matter, and practicing them in one area makes you stronger at using them everywhere else. So the first of these tools is called body thinking. This is a kind of deep, intuitive understanding that goes way beyond just words and numbers. It's about trusting your physical sensations, that gut feeling, a sense of tension or balance, to really get to the heart of a problem. Just listen to this from Cyril Stanley Smith, who was one of the greatest metallurgists of the 20th century. He said he understood how metals worked by having a very strong feeling of how I would behave if I were a certain alloy. He said it was a quite literally sensual way. That is body thinking in a nutshell, a physical feeling leading directly to a scientific breakthrough. Now, a close cousin to that tool is empathizing. This is the ability to take this incredible imaginative leap and, in a way, become the thing you're studying. You feel the problem from the inside out. This might be my favorite example of all. Jonas Salk, the guy who invented the polio vaccine, didn't just study the virus under a microscope. He said, "I would picture myself as a virus and try to sense what it would be like." By empathizing with his enemy, he could figure out how it would act. It's just a stunning example of artistic imagination leading to one of the biggest medical breakthroughs in history. Okay, so this is all great for Nobel laureates and historical geniuses, but what about the rest of us? How can we actually start to think this way in our own lives? Well, it all starts with your mindset. First, you've got to adopt a beginner's mind. Just approach everything with fresh curiosity, no assumptions. Next, actively look for analogies. How is this new thing like something you already know? Then, you have to learn to embrace being uncomfortable, because that feeling of not knowing is where growth happens. And finally, get your hands dirty. Don't just read about how a toaster works, try to fix a broken one. That's how knowledge really sticks. Because the ultimate goal here, the real magic, is what experts call cross-pollination. It's taking a skill or an idea or a way of thinking from one area of your life and applying it somewhere completely different. That's where the breakthroughs happen. Look, this isn't just some historical fun fact or a neat little self-help trick. This whole idea of the polymath is becoming more and more vital in the world we live in today. The 20th century was all about specialization. The industrial age demanded it. We built our entire economy, our entire education system, around creating deep experts in really narrow fields. And you know what? It worked. It built the modern world. But the challenges we're facing now, things like climate change, global pandemics, these are massive, interconnected problems. They can't be solved by specialists working alone in their own little silos. They demand the kind of integrated, cross-disciplinary thinking that is the true hallmark of the polymath. So I want to leave you with this one question to really think about. What about you? What passions and hobbies and strange curiosities do you have? You know, the poet that's inside the computer programmer or the musician that's inside the biologist. What connections have you been taught to treat as separate, or even worse, to just ignore completely? Because all the evidence suggests that those ignored connections, they might just be where your greatest ideas are hiding.